Congo River, river in west-central Africa. With a length of 2,900 miles, 4,700 kilometers, it is the continent's second longest river, after the Nile. It rises in the highlands of northeastern Zambia between Lakes Tanganyika and Nyasa, Malawi, as the Chambeshi River at an elevation of 5,760 feet, 1,760 meters, above sea level and at a distance of about 430 miles, 700 kilometers, from the Indian Ocean. Its course then takes the form of a giant counterclockwise arc, flowing to the northwest, west, and southwest before draining into the Atlantic Ocean at Banane, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Its drainage basin, covering an area of 1,335,000 square miles, 3,457,000 square km, takes in almost the entire territory of that country, as well as most of the Republic of the Congo, the Central African Republic, eastern Zambia, and northern Angola and parts of Cameroon and Tanzania. The Amazon and the Congo are the two great rivers of the world that flow out of equatorial zones where heavy rainfall occurs throughout all or almost all of the year. The Congo River, formerly also known as the Zaire River, is the second longest river in Africa, shorter only than the Nile, as well as the third largest river in the world by discharge volume, following the Amazon and Ganges rivers. It is also the world's deepest recorded river, with measured depths of around 220 meters 720 feet. The Congo-Lualaba-Chambeshi River system has an overall length of 4,700 kilometers 2,900 miles, which makes it the world's ninth longest river. The Chambeshi is a tributary of the Lualaba River, and Lualaba is the name of the Congo River upstream of Boyoma Falls, extending for 1,800 kilometers 1,100 miles. Measured along with the Lualaba, the main tributary, the Congo River has a total length of 4,370 kilometers 2,720 miles. It is the only major river to cross the equator twice. The Congo Basin has a total area of about 4 million square kilometers 1,500,000 square miles, or 13% of the entire African landmass. The Congo's drainage basin covers 4,014,500 square kilometers 1,550,000 square miles, an area nearly equal to that of the European Union. The Congo's discharge at its mouth ranges from 23,000 to 75,000 m3/s, 810,000 to 2,650,000 cu/s, with an average of 41,000 m3/s, 1,400,000 cu/s. The river transports annually 86 million tons of suspended sediment to the Atlantic Ocean and an additional 6% of bedload. The river and its tributaries flow through the Congo rainforest, the second largest rainforest area in the world, after the Amazon rainforest in South America. The river also has the second largest flow in the world, behind the Amazon, the second largest drainage basin of any river, behind the Amazon, and is one of the deepest rivers in the world, at depths greater than 220 meters 720 feet. Because its drainage basin includes areas both north and south of the equator, its flow is stable, as there is always at least one part of the river experiencing a rainy season. The sources of the Congo are in the highlands and mountains of the East African Rift, as well as Lake Tanganyika and Lake Mweru, which feed the Lualaba River, which then becomes the Congo below Boyoma Falls. The Chambeshi River in Zambia is generally taken as the source of the Congo in line with the accepted practice worldwide of using the longest tributary, as with the Nile River. The Congo flows generally toward the northwest from Kisangani just below the Boyoma Falls, then gradually bends southwestward, passing by Mbandaka, joining with the Ubangi River and running into the Pool Malbo, Stanley Pool. Kinshasa, formerly Leopoldville, and Brazzaville are on opposite sides of the river at the pool, where the river narrows and falls through a number of cataracts in deep canyons, collectively known as the Livingstone Falls, running by Matadi and Boma, and into the sea at Muanda. Lower Congo constitutes the lower parts of the Great River, that is the section of the river from the river mouth at the Atlantic coast to the twin capitals of Brazzaville and Kinshasa. In this section of the river, there are two significant tributaries, both on the left or south side. The Kwilu River originates in the hills near the Angolan border and enters the Congo some 100 kilometers upstream from Matadi. The other is the Inkazi River, that flows in a northerly direction from the Uige province in Angola to the confluence with the Congo at Zongo some 80 kilometers downstream from the twin capitals. Because of the vast number of rapids, in particular the Livingstone Falls, this section of the river is not operated continuously by river boats. The Congo Basin covers 10 countries and accounts for about 13% of Africa. The highest point in the Congo Basin is in the Rwenzori Mountains, at an altitude of around 4,340 meters 14,240 feet above sea level. Although the Livingstone Falls prevent access from the sea, nearly the entire Congo above them is readily navigable in sections, especially between Kinshasa and Kisangani. Large river steamers worked the river until quite recently. The Congo River still is a lifeline in a land with few roads or railways. Railways now bypass the three major falls, and much of the trade of Central Africa passes along the river, including copper, palm oil, as kernels, sugar, coffee, and cotton. The Congo River is the most powerful river in Africa. During the rainy season over 50,000 cubic meters, 1,800,000 cu-foot, of water per second flows into the Atlantic Ocean. Opportunities for the Congo River and its tributaries to generate hydropower are therefore enormous. Scientists have calculated that the entire Congo Basin accounts for 13% of global hydropower potential. This would provide sufficient power for all of sub-Saharan Africa's electricity needs. Currently, there are about 40 hydropower plants in the Congo Basin. The largest are the Inga dams, about 200 kilometers, 120 miles, southwest of Kinshasa. The project was launched in the early 1970s, when the first dam was completed. The plan, as originally conceived, called for the construction of 5 dams that would have had a total generating capacity of 34,500 megawatts, MW. To date only the Inga I and Inga II dams have been built, generating 1,776 MW. In February 2005, South Africa's state-owned power company, Eskom, announced a proposal to expand generation through improvements and the construction of a new hydroelectric dam. The project would bring the maximum output of the facility to 40,000 megawatts, MW. It is feared that these new hydroelectric dams could lead to the extinction of many of the fish species that are native to the river. Upstream from Malbo Pool, the Congo Basin receives an average of about 60 inches, 1,500 millimeters, of rain a year, of which more than one-fourth is discharged into the Atlantic. The drainage basin of the Congo is, however, only about half the size of that of the Amazon, and the Congo's rate of flow 1,450,000 cubic feet, 41,000 cubic meters, per second at its mouth is considerably less than the Amazon's flow of more than 6,180,000 cubic feet, 175,000 cubic meters, per second. While the Chambeshi River, as the remotest source, may form the Congo's original mainstream in terms of the river's length, it is another tributary, the Lualaba, which rises near Musofi in southeastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, that carries the greatest quantity of water and thus may be considered as forming the Congo's original mainstream in terms of water volume. When the river first became known to Europeans at the end of the 15th century, they called it the Zaire, a corruption of a word that is variously given as Enzari, Anzali, Anjali, Anzadi, and Niadai, and that simply means river in local African languages. It was only in the early years of the 18th century that the river was first called the Rio Congo, a name taken from the Kingdom of Congo that had been situated along the lower course of the river. During the period, 1971 to 97, when the Democratic Republic of the Congo was called Zaire, the government also renamed the river the Zaire. Even during that time, however, the river continued to be known throughout the world as the Congo. To the literary-minded, the river is evocative of the famous 1902 short story Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. His book conjured up an atmosphere of foreboding, treachery, greed, and exploitation. Today, however, the Congo appears as the key to the economic development of the Central African interior. The expression Congo Basin, strictly speaking, refers to the hydrographic basin. This is not only vast but is also covered with a dense and ramified network of tributaries, subtributaries, and small rivers, with the exception of the sandy plateaus in the southwest. The Congo Basin is the most clearly distinguished of the various geographic depressions situated between the Sahara to the north, the Atlantic Ocean to the south and west, and the region of the East African lakes to the east. In this basin, a fan-shaped web of tributaries flows downward along concentric slopes that range from 900 to 1,500 feet, 275 to 460 meters, in elevation, and that enclose a central depression. The basin itself stretches for more than 1,200 miles, 1,900 kilometers, from north to south, from the Congo, Lake Chad watershed to the interior plateaus of Angola, and also measures about 1,200 miles from the Atlantic in the west to the Nile-Congo watershed in the east. The central part of the Congo Basin, often called the cuvette, literally saucer or shallow bowl, is an immense depression containing quaternary alluvial deposits that rest on thick sediments of continental origin, consisting principally of sands and sandstones. These underlying sediments form outcrops in valley floors at the eastern edge of the cuvette. The filling of the cuvette, however, began much earlier. Boreholes have revealed that since late Precambrian times, i.e., since at least 570 million years ago, considerable sediment has accumulated, derived from the erosion of formations situated around the periphery of the cuvette. The arrangement of surface relief, thick depositional strata, and substratum in amphitheater-like fashion around the main Congo Channel, which has been uniform across time, is evidence of a persistent tendency to subsidence in this part of the continent. This subsidence is accompanied by uplifting on the edges of the cuvette, principally on its eastern side, which has also been influenced by the formation of the Western Rift Valley. From its sources to its mouth, the Congo River system has three contrasting sections: the Upper Congo, Middle Congo, and Lower Congo. The upper reaches are characterized by three features: confluences, lakes, and waterfalls or rapids. To begin with, several streams of approximately equal size unite to form the river. In a little more than 60 miles, 100 kilometers, the upper Lualaba joins the Luvuwa and then the Lukuga. Each stream for part of its course undergoes at least a lacustrine type of expansion, even when it does not form a lake. Thus, Lake Upemba occurs on the upper Lualaba, Lakes Bangulu and Mweru occur on the Chambeshi, Luipila, Luvuwa system, and Lake Tanganyika, which is fed by the Ruzizi, flowing from Lake Kivu, and by the Malagara Sea, itself flows into the Lukuga. Rapids occur not only along the head streams but also in several places along the course of the main stream. Navigation thus is possible only along sections of the upper Congo by vessels of low tonnage. Even so, these stretches are in danger of being overgrown by aquatic vegetation, particularly water hyacinths. Kisangani, formerly Stanleyville, located just downstream of the Boyoma Falls, a series of 7 cataracts marks the real beginning, upriver, of the navigable Congo. This central part of the river flows steadily for more than 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers, to within 22 miles, 35 kilometers, of Kinshasa. Its course at first is narrow but soon grows wider, after which many islands occur in midstream. This change in the character of the river corresponds to its entry into its alluvial plain. From that point onward, with the exception of a few rare narrow sections, the Congo divides into several arms, separated by strings of islands. It increases from a width of more than 3.5 miles, 5.5 kilometers, downstream from Isangi, where the Lomami enters the Congo, to a width of 5 to 7 miles, 8 to 11 kilometers, and on occasion, for example, at the mouth of the Mongala, to 8 miles, 13 kilometers. Beyond the natural levees, formed by silt deposits, occurring on either bank, some areas are subjected to extensive flooding that increases the river's bounds still further. It is not always easy to distinguish such areas from the rain swamps in regions lying between rivers. The middle course of the Congo ends in a narrow section called the channel, or couloir, corridor. Between banks no more than half a mile to a mile wide, the riverbed deepens and the current becomes rapid, flowing through a valley that cuts down several hundreds of yards deep into the soft sandstone bedrock of the Bate Plateau. Along this central reach the Congo receives its principal tributaries, primarily the Ubangi and the Sangha on the right bank and the Kwat on the left bank. An enormous increase in the average rate of flow results, rising from less than 250,000 cubic feet, 7,000 cubic meters, a second at Kisangani to nearly its maximum flow at Kinshasa. Upon leaving the Canal, the Congo divides into two branches, forming Malbo Pool, a vast lacustrine area about 15 by 17 miles, 24 by 27 kilometers, which marks the end of the Middle Congo. Immediately downstream occur the first waterfalls of the final section of the river's course. Cataracts and rapids are grouped into two series, separated by a fairly calm central reach, in which the elevation drops from a little less than 900 feet, 275 meters, to a few yards above sea level. The Congo's estuary begins at Matadi, downstream from the rapids that close off the interior Congo, 83 miles, 134 kilometers, in length. It forms the border between Angola and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. At first the estuary is narrow, less than half a mile to about a mile and a half in width, with a central channel 65 to 80 feet, 20 to 24 meters, deep, but it widens downstream of Boma. There the river, obstructed by islands, divides into several arms, and in some places the depth does not exceed 20 to 25 feet, 6 to 7.5 meters, which makes dredging necessary to allow ocean-going vessels to reach Matadi. Beyond the estuary's mouth, the course of the Congo continues offshore as a deep underwater canyon that extends for a distance of about 125 miles, 200 kilometers. The Congo has a regular flow, which is fed by rains throughout the year. At Kinshasa the flow has for many years remained between the high level of 2,310,000 cubic feet, 65,000 cubic meters, per second, recorded during the flood of 1908, and the low level of 756,000 cubic feet, 21,000 cubic meters, per second, recorded in 1905. During the unusual flood of 1962, however, by far the highest for a century, the flow probably exceeded 2,600,000 cubic feet, 73,000 cubic meters, per second. At Brazzaville and Kinshasa, the river's regime is characterized by a main maximum at the end of the year and a secondary maximum in May, as well as by a major low level during July and a secondary low level during March and April. In reality, the downstream regime of the Congo represents climatic influence extending over 20 degrees of latitude on both sides of the equator, a distance of some 1,400 miles, 2,250 kilometers. Each tributary in its course modifies the level of the main stream. Thus, for example, the low level in July at Malbo Pool results from two factors: a drought that occurs for several months in the southern part of the basin at that time, as well as a delay before the floods of the Ubangi tributary flowing down from the north arrive, which does not happen before August. The Congo basin is so vast that no single meteorologic circumstance is capable of disturbing the slow movement of the water's rise and fall. The annual fluctuations may alter drastically, however, when floodwaters from different tributaries that normally coincide with each other arrive at different times. Lake Tanganyika, apart from brief seiches caused by wind drift and sudden changes in atmospheric pressure, may experience considerable variations in its water level from year to year. In 1960, for example, its waters flooded parts of Kalemi, Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Bujumbura, Burundi. A series of particularly rainy years followed by a blocking of the outlet by floating vegetation may explain this phenomenon. Three types of environments are found, either juxtaposed or in succession, along the river and its tributaries: the narrower sections, bordered by firm ground; the wider stretches, dotted with islands and accompanied by backwaters; and the zones where flooding occurs or where there are extensive marshes. Almost all the river peoples engage in fishing. Along the narrow sections, where rapids often occur, fishing is only of interest to a small number of villages. The Enya, Wagenia, of Boyoma Falls and the Manyanga living downstream from Malbo Pool attach fish traps to stakes or to dams built in the rapids themselves. Fishing of a very different nature, notably by poison, is conducted in the marshy areas, where the population is more extensive than might be imagined. Among these peoples are the Ngam people who inhabit the Itambiri and the triangle formed by the Congo and the Ubangi. Other fisherfolk of the marshes dwell in the lagoons and the flooded forests of the region where the confluence of the Congo and the Alama, Likouala, and Sangha occurs. Despite unfavorable conditions, all these peoples are also cultivators. They raise dikes, often of monumental size, to plant cassava, manioc, on the land thus sheltered from flooding. Other minor crops, such as sweet potatoes, bananas, and yams, are also found. The Congo Basin has the continent's most important timber resources, but the timber industry is developing slowly, mainly because the interior is so inaccessible and because the cost of transporting timber to the coast is so high. Few modes of existence have undergone such profound changes as a result of contact with the modern world as has that of the river's fisherfolk. The growth of the towns on the banks of Malbo Pool as well as the taste of urban dwellers for river fish have served to stimulate fishing by tying it to a cash economy. It is not just a question of villagers smoking fish that they sell to passing traders. Increasingly numerous fishing crews sail up the Congo, the Ubangi, and the Kasai, well above their confluences, to fish in the shallows. The Congo is an important navigational system in Africa. Within the territorial limits of the Democratic Republic of the Congo alone, there are some 8,700 miles, 14,000 kilometers, of navigable waterway. Of this total, 650 miles, 1,050 kilometers, are accessible at all seasons to barges with capacities between 800 and 1,100 tons, depending upon the height of the water. The amount of goods transported by water consisting mainly of agricultural produce, wood, minerals, and fuel is very modest in comparison with the traffic on European rivers. For example, the commercial traffic from the port of Kinshasa does not reach 1 million tons, but river transport remains essential for communications with regions that are inaccessible by road, especially in the Cuvette. The three principal routes, all of which converge on the downstream terminus at Kinshasa on the Malbo Pool, run from Kisangani, from Ilbo, formerly Port Frankie, on the Kasai, and from Bangui on the Ubangi. River transport, however, falls short of the role it could play in development. It has actually declined since the states of the Congo Basin became independent in 1960, because of serious problems with aging equipment, a lack of maintenance of the infrastructure, and the poor functioning of the public waterway agencies. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo only the section from Ilbo to Kinshasa is still important, because it constitutes the river link, the other link being a railway between Kinshasa and Matadi, used to transport the copper production of Katanga to the coast. It has been estimated that the hydroelectric potential of the Congo Basin amounts to about 1/6 of the known world resources, but only a fraction of this potential has been harnessed. The single site of Inga, just upriver from Matadi, has a power potential estimated at more than 30,000 megawatts. Two hydroelectric projects, called Inga I and Inga II, have been completed there since the independence of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Further development of the region's hydropower potential, as outlined in the ambitious Grand Inga scheme, would create one of the world's largest hydroelectric power systems. Malbo Pool, lake-like expansion of the lower Congo River above Livingstone Falls, between the Republic of the Congo, Brazzaville, to the west, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Kinshasa, to the east. It covers an area of 174 square miles, 450 square km, and is divided into deep navigable channels by Bamu Island, 70 square miles 181 square km, in its center. Its maximum depth is 52 feet, 16 m. Brazzaville and Kinshasa occupy its northwestern and southwestern shores, respectively. Thank you for watching this video.